Okay, teachers, welcome back to week 4 of our Classroom Management by Design series. Hopefully, you are doing the work and taking advantage of this Lego style step by step process we are putting in place for you to set you up for success for the upcoming school year. That's what this is all about. So in week 1, we talked about vision and values. Week 2, we talked about flows and roles of your classroom. And then week 3, we talked about establishing those norms and expectations. So it only makes sense that this week we get into procedures and routines. So let's jump in. Okay, if you don't know me, I am Lauren Zabigan. I am a 20 plus year educator in the primary world of education. And if there's one thing I've learned, one of the most effective ways to ensure classroom management success is by establishing those consistent routines and procedures. And you learn about this all through college, how important those routines and procedures are. But nobody really tells you specifically how to do this. So we are going to get into those specifics today, okay? We want those clear, structured routines because they help us to create just that predictable learning environment for our students. And that's what's going to allow for our students to feel safe and secure within our classroom walls, and it's going to help us to create that community sense that we just strive to get day in and day out. Okay, so in this segment here that you're watching, I'm going to explain to you not just the importance of the consistency and the routines, of the consistency of the routines, but we're also going to talk about how do we establish those daily procedures? This is the piece they don't teach you in college, okay? How do we provide enough structure during the day to make it predictable, but still engaging for our students? By the end of this segment, you are going to have a detailed daily schedule in place that you can follow our process and create your own. We hope you do. That's going to be your takeaway from this. And then our goal is to hopefully have these strategies help you to create that well-organized and that efficient classroom heading into the school year. Depending on when you're watching this, if you're in the middle of the school year, you can start this process today if you so choose. It's completely and totally up to you how you want to implement this information. The important thing is that you take the time, do the work, and get the process started, okay? Okay, so let's jump into talking first about the importance of the consistent routines. This is a no-brainer if you are in education. You hear about it all the time. Consistency, consistency, consistency. But why? Okay? Why do we need this? Consistent routines provide structure. Consistent routines provide predictability. And both of those elements are so crucial for those young learners you have in your classroom. So when students know what to expect, they inherently feel more secure, which makes them better able to focus on the learning happening in your classroom. And it's also going to decrease the behavior issues you may have, okay? Let's just talk about a few benefits of providing these consistent routines within your classroom. First, and probably most importantly, it's going to reduce the anxiety and stress your students feel. Predictable routines help reduce this anxiety because you are providing that sense of stability that so many students need in this day and age. They may not get that stability at home, but when they come into your classroom and they know what's expected, you are in a sense, setting them up for success just by providing consistency and stability. Okay? So here's an example of what this might look like in your classroom. Knowing the daily schedule is going to help your students feel more in control and less anxious about transitions. When they know what to expect, they're more apt to getting ready a lot faster because they know where you're headed in your day. And if you have things that come up, talk about it during your morning meeting so they know what to expect when there's a change in routine. Another reason this consistency is so important is because it's going to promote that independence, which is what we want in our learners. When your students are familiar with the routines, they can complete tasks independently. They don't need you to be walking them through step by step anymore. You become that scaffold on the side. The teacher guidance is on an as-need basis. Okay? You're not the direct instructor. You're letting them to explore. If you are in the classroom, an example of what this would look like would be your students know that after the morning bell, that morning bell rings, and after the bell rings, that they need to hang their coat up. They need to put their homework wherever it may go. And then they have to begin on their morning work, whatever that may look like in your classroom. Just establishing, and this is what you want to do these first few weeks of school. Yes, you might sound like a broken record, but it's so important you take time to go over these routines every single day. Okay? A third benefit is when you have consistency in your routines, you're actually maximizing instructional time. Think about that. The clear routines, it's going to minimize your downtime and your disruptions. So what in turn does that mean? It means that you are going to be more effective with your use of instructional time and covering the materials you need to cover. It's a win-win for everybody. Your students have reduced stress. You are getting more instructional time. In your classroom, an example of this would be if students know exactly what to do during your transitions. You set this up the first couple weeks of school. You are going to have so much less time wasted, which is going to be more time spent on the learning activities. You're not waiting for them to clear desks and what have you. They know, okay, this is my signal. I put my things away. I'm sitting there ready to go. And one thing you might notice is I like giving these little light bulb moments in these posts. So the light bulb moment for right now is going to be that many teachers are simply unaware of how much time is lost due to transitions and disruptions when your students are not sure about established routines, about established transitions. And you would be shocked at how those small moments of confusion can add up to a significant amount of instructional learning time. You add this up over the course of a day, whoa. Then you add it up over the course of the week, whoa, whoa, whoa. By meticulously planning and practicing routines, teachers can reclaim that time, which is ever so valuable. So keep that in mind. They need to know your cues for transitions, and you need to have that consistency in place, okay? That's part one. The next part we're going to talk about is going to be establishing the daily procedures. So we know consistency is key, but now we have to get into the foundation of the effective classroom management, which is establishing these daily procedures. This is how you're going to build that consistency in your classroom. Remember, this is a Lego style process. Step by step, we're walking you through. It may sound repetitive, but if it's important, you're going to hear it more than once, okay? So, daily procedures are the specific steps that students follow to complete routines and tasks. That's what the daily procedures are. You want these procedures to be clear. You want these procedures to be consistent. And you want these procedures to be practiced regularly until they become second nature to your students. To the point where if you have a sub in there, these kids, it's a well-oiled machine. When I am in the classroom and I am subbing, I know the teachers who have that strong classroom management just based on how well-oiled this machine is, and that's what we're going for. So let's talk about now, what are some strategies for establishing these effective procedures? Again, you know this from college that you want to have the consistency, but they don't necessarily give you the how. How do I do this? Okay? So the first step is, one, you want to identify your key procedures. So write that down. Identify key procedures. You want to determine the most important procedures that need to be established in your classrooms. So this is step one. Okay, determine the most important procedures. These might be, what are your morning meeting routines going to be? What are your morning routines going to be when your students come in? What is morning meeting going to look like? How are you going to call them to morning meeting? What are your transitions between activities going to look like? When I coach teachers, that's one of the biggest things I coach them on is working on transitions. What are bathroom breaks going to look like? Are you using your instructional time effectively, or are we wasting too much time on a whole class bathroom break? And then, of course, you want to also consider what are end of the day routines going to look like. Okay, so that's step one. Step two, write this down. You want to be explicit and specific. You want to be explicit and specific. So clearly explain each procedure step by step, just like we're doing in this series. Use simple, precise language that your students, based on their level, will easily understand. You might talk to a preschooler different than you're going to talk to a third grader. So, for example, if you are lining up, you want to explain specifically that students should push their chairs in, stand up quietly, and walk to the door in a single file line. You're going to practice and model this so they know what this looks like. The younger they are, the more you probably want to practice this at the beginning, but I'm telling you, spend this first couple weeks doing this, you are going to have a well-oiled machine. You're creating that machine, okay? So that was step two. Step three, model the procedures. Write that down. Model procedures, step three. So you will demonstrate each procedure for your students. You are going to show them exactly how it should be done and explain why this is important. Get into those safety aspects of this too. Okay, talk about the safety elements. So what would this look like in your classroom? Model for your students how to properly put supplies away after a craft activity. Show them where it goes, how you store it, how you maybe even undo the bins that the materials are stored in, okay? You want to emphasize the importance of keeping the classroom organized and keeping it safe. Safety is huge. Talk to them about that. This is the why behind why we do all of these things in this way. Okay, so there we go. There's three. We are up to step four. Again, you want to write this down. You want to practice regularly. Even if you are a veteran teacher, practice this regularly. Practice each procedure with your students until they can perform it independently. Are you going to feel like a broken record? Yes. But I'm telling you again, the consistency and the consistent practice, it helps to reinforce the routines and make this a natural part of the day, which reduces their stress. And when you are not in school, you know those kids are going to be A-okay because they know what to do. You are going to have subs. Yes, I want to sub for that teacher because it's an easy day. These kids know what they're doing. That's how much you want to practice these. Spend the first few weeks of school practicing morning routines every single day until your students can complete them without any reminders from you. This is how we build that machine. Again, Lego kits, step-by-step instructions. That's what you're doing for them. How do we learn? We learn through repetition, okay? And here's our fifth step that you want to, again, write down. Provide positive reinforcement. Provide positive reinforcement. You want to acknowledge and praise your students when they follow the procedures correctly. Oh my gosh, boys and girls, are you sure you're only in kindergarten? I thought these were 8th graders in here. Something as simple as that. They know they're on the right track, and they know that they just made you proud, and they love that. The positive reinforcement, it encourages them to continue following those routines. I don't necessarily have to have prizes. Just using my words lets them know that they just made my heart happy. That they just did exactly as they were supposed to do. Just using your words. You might want to use a reward system where students can earn points or stickers for consistently following the routines. That's totally up to you. I was not a huge reward person, but in this day and age, you might need to consider that you have to look at your values and determine at what level do you give a reward. Are we going to give a reward because they push their chairs in? Maybe not. But if they go above and beyond and they do it amazingly well and you don't even hear the chairs getting pushed in, then you might want to. Okay, so here's a little light bulb moment to consider. Many teachers may not realize the importance of revisiting and reinforcing procedures throughout the school year, especially veteran teachers. They know their well-oiled routines that they might not revisit these enough. Even well-established routines can start to slip if they're not periodically reviewed and practiced. And it doesn't matter how long you've been in education. You want to have that continuous reinforcement because it ensures that the procedures remain effective and that your students are staying on track, which again reduces stress and anxiety for your students because they know what to expect. Okay, so those were our 2 big chunks about routines and procedures. Now let's get into the activity part of this, the Lego kit part, if you will. Now we're going to talk about planning that detailed daily schedule. We're going to give you an example. Of course, you can take ours, tweak it. You might even look up other examples in different Facebook groups just so you know what to expect. But know that creating a detailed daily schedule is an essential step for establishing the consistent routines and procedures you want to have for your classroom. Okay? A well-structured schedule, it helps students to know what to expect, when to expect it, which will reduce the uncertainty that they might have, which causes that stress when they don't know. And, this also is going to enhance their ability to focus on the learning when they know what to expect. You want to provide engaging lessons, which we'll get into, but for right now, just focus on the consistency in the daily structure of your day, of the daily process structure of your day, okay? So let me give you some steps to help you plan your daily schedule. And again, I would write these down or take screenshots or whatever, or go back to the actual written post and you can take the screenshots that way. So the first step is outline your day. Start by outlining the major components of your school day. You want to include morning arrival. What are you going to have them do when they get to school? What is going to be in place for them? Are you going to do bin centers? Are you going to have a morning worksheet? Are you going to do Monday, Wednesday, Friday, we do this? Are you going to do Tuesday, Thursday, we do this? You have to think about that all now and you'll know going into it, okay? You want to focus on your instructional blocks, your class segments, basically. Then you want to focus on lunch, recess, and dismissal. Have all of this kind of floating around in your head, okay? Then break down each component. This is going to be step 2, write that down. Break down each component. So you break down each component into the specific activities and procedures. You want to be as detailed as possible to make sure that the clarity and the consistency is there and your students know what to do. This is a great time to do the modeling, okay? Great time to do the modeling. For example, if you are teaching arrival to your students, okay, these are some things that you would want to model for them. Students hang up coats, show them. Students unpack backpacks, show them. Students place homework into the homework bin, show them. Students start morning work, show them. You're not going to just show them on day 1. You're not going to just show them on day 2. You're going to repeatedly show them until you know that they have this ingrained in them, okay? Morning work. If you're thinking about, well, what do I give them? It can be quiet, independent work time while you are taking attendance as the teacher, and your school announcements are probably being made in the morning. You want your room to kind of be quiet. So you kind of have to think about, if you do the morning tubs, that's fine, but just make sure voice levels are at a place where they're able to hear and be still if they need to be. Considering your instructional blocks, whole group instruction followed by small group activities is a great way to set up most of your lessons. Then you're going to end it with independent practice. So this is the we do, what is it? I do, we do, they do, right? So you're going to teach them whole group, they will do it small group, and then eventually they will do it independently, okay? So you model, they work with the group, and then they take on that independent level. When you're thinking transitions, you want clear procedures for moving between activities, including cleaning up, lining up, and moving quietly around your room. Okay? Step 3, allocate time for each activity. So when you're coming up with your daily schedule, this is a huge piece that you might think is common sense, but you'd be shocked at how teachers need to tweak this. You have to assign specific time blocks to each activity you plan. You need to be realistic about how long each task will take, which allows for the smooth transitions and minimal downtime. Always have a backup plan in place. Especially if you're a new teacher and you're not quite sure about this, have a book ready to go, have a movement activity ready to go in case you end up, oh my gosh, I finished 10 minutes early, now what do I do with them? Always think about what would be a quick, okay, we can do this now, okay? So for example, 8 to 8:15 in the morning, This is your arrival in your morning work time. 8:15 to 9 o'clock in the morning. This might be your math instruction time. 9 to 9:10. This might be when we're going to transition into reading. Maybe even sneak a restroom break in there. 10 minutes should be enough time to do that. 9:10 to 10 o'clock might be your reading block and your centers, okay? Depending on how you map out reading. But 9:10 to 10 o'clock, that might be your reading block time. Again, those are just examples. You might need to tweak that. And of course, we know with all things, we have to be flexible. So this is step 4, incorporate the flexibility when you're planning your daily routine. Consistency is oh so very important, but as teachers, it is also essential to build some flexibility and to accommodate unexpected assemblies, visitors, guests, or changes that happen in your schedule. You have to be able to know how to be flexible and adapt. Best advice I can give you is take a minute from here, take a minute from there, rather than losing a whole chunk of class. So have a buffer time after lunch to address issues that may arise, or to provide that additional time for activities if needed. If you don't need this, it's a good time to do just quiet time. Let's just put our heads down, let ourselves calm down after the busyness of lunch, what have you. But if you need that 10-minute window, build it in there. It just helps us move into a better afternoon, okay? The 5th step, you want to write this down. Review and adjust. Review and adjust. So you regularly want to review your schedule and make the adjustments as needed. Make adjustments as needed. It is not written in stone. You might have to let your admin know, but that's okay. See how the flow is working for your students. Get feedback from your students to see what is working and what might need some tweaking, especially if you're a new teacher. Do not be afraid to adjust. If you try something for 2 weeks and you're like, it just doesn't seem to be flowing, then it might be time to tweak. So, for example, if students are consistently struggling with a particular transition, maybe it's transitioning from ending your classroom time in the morning to getting ready for lunch, this would be where you want to step in and consider revising your procedures for how you're getting them ready for lunch. Or maybe you need to end that last lesson a minute or two earlier so you can give them more time to get ready. You'd be surprised just going 1 to 2 minutes less in a lesson, especially before lunch, because that's like your critical time where you kind of need to get your energy back up. Just doing that can make a huge difference. Okay, here's our 3rd light bulb moment of this segment that you want to consider. Teachers often underestimate the impact of a well-planned schedule on classroom behavior and student learning. I'm going to say that again. Teachers often underestimate the impact of a well-planned daily classroom schedule and student learning. If you have a meticulously crafted schedule, it not only keeps the day running smoothly, but it also enhances student engagement and reduces behavior issues in your classroom, which I'm going to tell you is where the overwhelm and the burnout sets in. It's dealing with behavior. You have this consistency, you're going to really avoid a lot of those issues because your students have that well-oiled machine. So periodically reviewing and adjusting the schedule is going to ensure that it remains effective and responsive to the needs of your class. Check in with them from time to time. They are part of this culture and climate that you're building. Yes, you are the leader, you are the authority, and it is your vision that we are carrying out, but your students are an active part of your community, so check in with them, even if they are in kindergarten. get feedback from them. Boys and girls, this is what I'm seeing. How do you think we could do better with this? And you would be amazed at what they can come up with, and you're going to get that buy-in from them. So keep that in mind. Okay, let's start wrapping this up and just reminding you that establishing consistent routines and procedures is a crucial component of successful classroom management. Start thinking about the flow of your day. If you can talk to other teachers in your buildings, do so. If you maybe can get a hold of the teacher's schedule who had your job before you, look at that schedule, see how the flow goes and feels for you. Tweak it as you need to, but know that by creating a predictable environment and developing those clear procedures and planning a very precise daily schedule, you can significantly enhance the student behavior, your student engagement, and your overall mental well-being in the classroom. And that's what this is all about. It's setting you up for success and making sure we are aligned to your vision and your values. So keep that in mind. Okay, thank you again so much for being here. Again, check out the actual written blog post. I love doing the YouTube part because it allows you to just hit play and listen to this. Eventually we'll get into the podcast world, but right now this is what we're doing, and I'm having fun with it. So we would love to encourage you to pay attention, because we are going to be doing a Classroom Management by Design Challenge beginning July 22nd. I will, by next week, have the registration. It's going to be completely free. We're going to have prizes throughout the week. So yeah, we're going to do a whole Classroom by Design challenge. It's going to be 5 days, setting you up for success as you head into the upcoming school year. It will be on July 22nd, which is hard to believe is less than a month away. So look for that to come. Thank you again so much for being here. Be sure to come back for week 5, where we continue this step-by-step design process, all setting you up for success for the school year, showing you this Lego style kit that we can implement to alleviate so much of the stress and burnout that comes with this career. Again, I'm Lauren Spiegel. I am the founder of Lesson Plan Toolbox. Check us out at lessonplantoolbox.com. Share this with your friends. You have no idea how grateful I would be. Share this with your principal even. I'd be even more grateful if you share this with your principal. We are trying to help as many primary teachers as we can and just set you up and alleviate as much of the burden and anxiety that comes with this job. We are here for it. We've been in those shoes and we've flipped the switch. And now our goal is to help as many teachers as we can thrive in this career. You have the most important job in the whole world, in my opinion, and you should be getting paid millions and millions of dollars for your job. Until that happens, we're here to help you on your way, and we're so grateful that you took the time to invest in becoming a stronger teacher and helping our world become a better place. So thank you again for being here. Be sure to come back next week, week 5 of our series. Loving this. If you have any suggestions, ideas, tips, or topics that you want us to cover, shoot us a message. Again, you can find us at lessonplantoolbox.com. I have a Facebook group, Classroom Management for Primary Teachers. You can search that on Facebook. Book club. We have a Classroom Management book club group. You're welcome to join that. And of course, you can find me at Lesson Plan Toolbox on Instagram. So until next week, we will talk to you soon.